Welcome. It is Summer Thursday, and it is really great to have you here. I like my friends. I think you like your friends. They're really important to me, and when something goes wrong with one of them, I can feel it. I'm upset, right? I didn't know Matthew Perry, but I feel like I lost a friend. I know it sounds weird, but I don't think I'm the only one who feels that way. I feel like there's a lot of us who felt like when he died, we lost someone we knew or really liked, or he was like a friend. Quite literally, right? And so all this time, I've been really pissed off that someone gave him drugs. And he took too many of them because he had a lifelong addiction. And I wanted someone to pay. And tonight, someone might be paying. More than one someone, 5 someones might end up paying real dearly. 5 people arrested, 2 of them doctors, one of them his personal assistant. And can I just tell you, one of the doctors allegedly wrote this: "I wonder how much this moron will pay." I can't wait to find out what a jury might think of that. Conrad Murray was the doctor who was giving drugs to Michael Jackson when Michael Jackson died. And he went to trial. And his defense lawyer is here with me tonight. Do not go anywhere. You've got to hear what he thinks about the potential litigation that lies ahead for these people. All right, and then you know the story about Ellen Greenberg, right? Stabbed 20 times, 10 times in the back, and the back of the head, and the back of the neck. And somehow the medical examiner says, suicide. Nothing to see here, right? Turns out there's a lot to see here. Tonight we have 2 big exclusive interviews, and one of them I dare say is a bit of a blockbuster. If any of the investigating police are watching tonight, watch real closely. I have a feeling you're going to see it in your office soon. The fiancé who found Ellen Greenberg said that he'd come up with the building security guard to knock down the door when she wasn't answering. But tonight the building security guard's going to be on this show because he said, no, I didn't. And Ellen Greenberg's best friend has a lot to say, too. It's the first time she's spoken. She's talking tonight. Don't go anywhere. And then even more breaking news. It's been 3 months since Johnny Wacker was gunned down, streets of L.A., just going to his car after a shift. Guys are stealing his catalytic converter, and he doesn't know what's going on, but they shoot him dead. Tonight, 3 arrests, 1 more, too. 3 of them charged with murder, and they are 18 years old each. A 4th is 22, charged with something connected, but holy Dinah. Murder, if that's life, no parole, think about it. If you're 18, you can look at about 70 years locked up. No chance of getting out. Toe tag parole. Wonder how this sits with Johnny Wacker's mom. I will ask her because she's on the program with me tonight. Let's get started. It simply cannot compare to the shock of learning that Matthew Perry was found dead in his hot tub. Few things are really ever going to compare to that. But the announcement today of arrests and federal charges and allegations and admissions, an underground criminal network feeding off one celebrity's tragic addictions, that, my friends, that was an absolute stunner. Tonight we know 5 people have been indicted in the death last fall of this beloved TV star and movie actor, including Matthew Perry's own personal assistant and 2 medical doctors. Medical doctors. The feds say the group worked together, what you call a good old-fashioned conspiracy. Also say they worked separately to keep Matthew Perry amply supplied with the surgical anesthetic called ketamine. Ketamine that killed him. Perry, who'd battled addiction almost his entire life, underwent legitimate ketamine therapy for depression and for anxiety, but he allegedly wanted more of it, and he didn't have to look too far to find it.
Matthew Perry sought treatment for depression and anxiety and went to a local clinic where he became addicted to intravenous ketamine. When clinic doctors refused to increase his dosage, he turned to unscrupulous doctors who saw Perry as a way to make quick money.
2 of the 5 suspects arrested today, doctors. Dr. Salvador Placenia, a.k.a. Dr. P, and Jasveen Sangha. Not a doctor. This woman was the so-called ketamine queen of North Hollywood. 3 suspects were charged earlier, too. Kenneth Iwamasa, that was Perry's round-the-clock right-hand man. Eric Fleming was allegedly the conduit between Iwamasa and the queen, Jasveen Sangha. Iwamasa and Fleming have both already pleaded guilty. A 5th suspect, another doctor, Dr. Mark Chavez, is expected to plead guilty. Here's how it worked, allegedly. Police say Chavez supplied ketamine to Dr. P, Dr. Placenia, who then turned around and sold it to Matthew Perry at an unholy markup, I should add. Dr. P allegedly texted Dr. Chavez, and I will quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out." After Perry died, Madame Sangha, the ketamine queen, allegedly sent a 4-word text to Fleming. And it wasn't, "What have we done?" It was, "Delete all our messages." Keith Morrison of NBC's Dateline was Matthew Perry's stepdad. And today the Morrison family released a statement regarding these arrests, and I'll quote them. "We were and still are heartbroken by Matthew's death, but it has helped to know law enforcement has taken his case very seriously. We look forward to justice taking its course, and we're grateful for the exceptional work of the multiple agencies whose agents investigated Matthew's death. We are hoping unscrupulous suppliers of dangerous drugs will get the message." There is a lot to unpack here, and for that I turn to Perez Hilton. He's the king of celebrity news with millions of followers on X, Facebook, and Instagram. He also hosts the Perez Hilton podcast. Perez, thanks for being here. This is a really solemn topic. He's just such a happy-go-lucky and jovial guy that we all feel we lost. What else have you been hearing in your circles about what happened and the people who were arrested?
Well, one positive takeaway from what I have heard is, unlike in the death of Michael Jackson, where Dr. Conrad Murray was sentenced to 4 years and ended up serving about 2, the doctors in this case and his assistant are facing a lot more time. In fact, the main defendant, the culprit, Dr. P, is facing over 100 years in prison. So for his family and for Matthew himself, I hope that they are punished to the fullest extent of the law.
So what do we know about this group other than those headlines that I just sort of read? The Fed said they worked as a conspiracy and also separately, but what are you hearing?
Yeah, what we know is that the one doctor in San Diego, Dr. Chavez, actually has a ketamine clinic. That's how he was able to have access to so much ketamine. But according to the authorities, lied to the wholesale retailer, even used a name of another one of his patients to get even more as well. So he's facing multiple charges on distribution. And the Dr. P, who, first of all, this one doctor plus Dr. P, he works at an urgent care facility. How he was even able to do this is shocking. Also, he's already been released from jail, this Dr. P, and will be allowed to practice medicine in the interim. All he has to do is alert his patients that this investigation and that this whole situation is happening. I don't think he should be allowed to practice. I would not take any medical care from him if I was one of his patients. And I'm most disgusted at him. But we also mentioned the alleged drug dealer. She, from what I've read, specialized in just the rich and famous and lived a very rich lifestyle herself, dripped in jewelry, boasting about traveling all over the world, from Japan to Mexico, and really preying on these vulnerable people. And also, as a big fan of Friends like you, I'm so disappointed in Matthew Perry's assistant of nearly 30 years, who took a lesson from this Dr. P on how to administer the ketamine intravenously. He's not a trained medical professional, and he literally was shooting up his boss. I would not do that, and I don't think most people would, but he did. And the assistant is now facing up to 15 years in prison himself.
I do want to just mention, obviously these are all charges. Some have cut deals already, but they're allegations until they're proven in court. And that's important to point out because there's always a defense, and I'm sure they will mount a robust defense. I did want to ask you about the money because I said that it was an unholy markup. Do you know how much of a markup, like how much allegedly, again, these people were making off of Matthew Perry ultimately right until he died?
Well, the best way to decipher that is by comparison. Matthew Perry bought $50,000 worth of ketamine for, I believe it was 20 vials or 10 to 20 vials. Then he was able to get a comparable amount of 10 to 20 vials. I don't remember the exact number. It's 10 or 20 for $11,000 when he decided to go the street route and getting it not from a doctor. So the markup was quadruple or plus. Yeah, a lot.
I'm looking at the indictment here, and I see that the DEA says that they were charging Perry about $2,000 for a vial that cost Dr. Chavez about $12. It's all so sad. Perez, keep in touch with us on this because I know you have lots of sources and you'll hear lots in the coming days, but keep us posted.
Will do.
Thank you so much to Perez Hilton. This isn't the first time that we've seen doctors providing dangerous drugs to famous patients. We've spoken about it just in the last few moments. Michael Jackson's doctor, Conrad Murray, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for putting Michael Jackson under hospital-grade anesthesia to help him sleep. But he died instead. Joining me now is Michael Flanagan, the attorney who helped defend Conrad Murray at trial. Michael, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for being on the program. There are vast differences between Conrad Murray's case and the cases that are sure to be mounted against these attorneys that aren't, say, copping to a plea deal. Do you see a robust defense for these attorneys should they choose to go the trial route?
Well, I think that the prosecution has trouble proving this case. I think it's very defensible, but it's getting less defensible in view of the fact that they've apparently made plea deals with 3 or 4 of the defendants in the case. Those 3 or 4 defendants have probably agreed to testify to the facts that they would have a very difficult time proving. I could tell from your reaction when you first heard today. Matthew Perry is such a great guy, a great actor, and people get they might think that this is more tragic than if Matthew Perry was just a normal individual. The problem with this case for the defense is going to be that it's a celebrity case. It involves a lot of publicity, and when you have a celebrity case, the stakes are automatically higher when you have a celebrity case, and I'm talking about either a victim celebrity, like it was in this case, or a celebrity that's the defendant. It's a problem. The stakes automatically go up. The pressure's on the prosecution, pressure's on the judge. I woke up this morning, turned on the TV, and I saw this was a major story.
I mean, huge, right? It's all over the news everywhere. I do want to mention to our viewers is that the big difference I saw right away that I feel will be plumbed by their defense attorneys. Conrad Murray was present. He was there with Michael Jackson when Michael Jackson died. These doctors were nowhere near Matthew Perry, but allegedly were supplying all of those drugs. So there is a causation issue because Matthew Perry ultimately drowned in the hot tub. I can see that being something. But I wanted to ask you about this quote that the authorities were quick to put in the press release. And it was from Dr. Placenia, Dr. P. And it said, "I wonder how much this moron will pay," allegedly. I just can't imagine a jury being able to sit through that without seething in anger and wanting to get some sort of judicial revenge. Do you see that as one of the big problems? I
do see that as a big problem. It's a bigger problem than most the facts of the case. But just to correct one thing that you just said, that Conrad Murray was there when Michael Jackson died. He was not there. He was getting dressed and ready to go home. He'd been up with Michael Jackson all night, and he was
in the home. He'd been caring for him. I do remember the case well, and he was there in the home. He was monitoring Michael Jackson. He was on his phone, going around the corner. Very, very different. He was in the premises, right? These people weren't there at the home, other than the personal assistant. So I can see that being a little different. I'd love to have you back, though, as we learn more details about this case. Would you consider coming back?
Absolutely. I think it's going to surprise you the way this turns out.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there's always a defense that many of us don't see coming. Casey Anthony, in a case in point. Michael Flanagan, thank you so much. I'm going to return to this story probably early and often. In the meantime, still to come on this program, Ellen Greenberg was stabbed 20 times and died on her kitchen floor, slumped against the cabinets. 10 of those knife wounds were to the back of her head and neck, and at least one, maybe more, of those wounds happened after she was already dead. So you tell me how the medical examiner could rule her death a suicide. Yeah, I'm scratching my head on this one too. After the break, 2 exclusive interviews. Ellen's best friend, who has her suspicions about the man who discovered Ellen dead, and also the security guard that man claimed was with him when he broke down the door. Here's a hint. The guard remembers things very, very differently, and they are both next. When it comes to mysterious deaths, victims often find a way to be heard from beyond the grave. And so might be the case with Ellen Greenberg. Ellen was a first-grade teacher and a bride-to-be, 27 years old, when she was found in her Philadelphia apartment back in January of 2011, stabbed to death. 20 stab wounds, 10 of them to the back of her head and neck. And investigators quickly ruled the death a homicide because, of course, how do you stab yourself? That'd be a homicide. But weirdly, 3 months later, the death was reclassified as a suicide. Apparently, the biggest reason was because of the statements of Ellen's fiancé, a man named Sam Goldberg. He and Ellen shared the apartment. He's the one who found Ellen's body, and he's the one who dialed 911. He told the police that he opened the door with his key after working out downstairs in the apartment complex gym, but that the door was secured from the inside by a swing bar latch. You know, the kind that you find in hotels, you can lock yourself in for security. Here's a little bit of his 911 call. Have a listen.
Yeah, hi, okay.
Willing to do CPR with me over the phone so they can...
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay? And kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you...
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God, she stabbed herself.
Oh my God, she stabbed herself. I'm not sure, unless you found somebody, even then, would you say, oh my God, she stabbed herself, or oh my God, she's been stabbed? By the way, she's stabbed in the back, she's stabbed in the front. You're not going to discover it by turning her over. You're going to see it no matter what side she's on. Here's where things get dicey. Sam Goldberg said the security guard at the apartment complex was with him when he kicked down that door. But the guard said that absolutely did not happen. And he told the police as much. He said, quote, "I did not accompany or escort Mr. Goldberg up the elevator, the stairs, or otherwise at any time on January 26, 2011, end quote." It's pretty definitive. Nevertheless, I need to make very clear that Samuel Goldberg has never been so much as a person of interest in Ellen Greenberg's death, let alone a suspect. He's never been arrested or charged with anything. And again, authorities seem to be satisfied that there is not even a crime to investigate here. But tonight, in an exclusive interview with our Brian Enton, Ellen Greenberg's best friend, Allison Stern, says in her opinion, the fiancé's story doesn't add up. Take a look.
And what did you think when you found out that it was changed to suicide?
I remember the day I found that out. Sam actually called me to tell me, and I thought, wow, like, I didn't know why he was calling me to tell me. And I didn't believe it at that point, because I'd already known all these other facts. I knew about the 20 stab wounds. As far as like how that happened, who did it, I had no idea, but I knew it wasn't suicide. When you met with Sam or talked to Sam, did he ever give you like a timeline or like what he saw when he went in? Yeah. Did he describe it to you? Oh, yeah. And what did he say? So I remember, again, sitting with him, I think this was January 28th after the funeral. And I remember him saying he, had just gone to the gym. He had, left Ellen in the apartment, and I had asked, like, was there a fight or anything? He said no, she was just really stressed with work. And so he left. When he came back, he said it was about a half hour later, and he, went to use his key to open, and he said that the door was latched. I actually had written all this down, so I just looked back, through my notes to refresh my memory. So it was latched. He said that he, called her name, thought maybe she was napping or in the shower. He said he called her mom then to see if, she mentioned anything to her mom, and she hadn't heard anything. Then he said at that point he went downstairs to the front door, or to the security, and asked if maintenance was there and they could help him get into the apartment. And they said, maintenance is gone for the day. And he said the advice he was given was to use his shoulder. If he's going to try to break open the door, use his shoulder. So then he went back up, and he said he used his shoulder. He said it took one, maybe two times. He didn't remember. And the force that he used swung open the door, and he spun around and was facing the kitchen and saw her. And he said her back and shoulders were kind of up against the lower cabinets. And he said her little fingers were blue. I remember him saying that her little fingers were blue. And he said he called 911 immediately, and they were going to instruct him to do CPR, so he moved her to the floor, and at that time he saw the knife. You were questioned by the police at one point? Yes. So the week of February 7th, I was back in town. I had been in New Orleans for work. I came back, and I was asked by the homicide unit to come down to Philadelphia, I believe it was the Race Street location, so that they could question me, obviously, just as more of a, what information could they get as a friend. And I was interviewed by there. It was the strangest feeling to be in there, because I'm like, this is not my life. What am I doing here? I remember just feeling like they didn't care what I was saying. It was almost like they were checking the box that they had me there. And at one point he even said, "Are you trying to point fingers here?" And I said, "No, I'm just answering your questions and giving you the information that I know. I'm only giving you fact." So, yeah. So did you feel like they had already had their mind made up about what happened? Yeah. This was like, I have to just do this. Let me get this over with. Like, I didn't feel like they were interested in what I had to say. And again, not that I wasn't there that day, so I have no information of what happened. But I knew what he had told me, and I knew who, Ellen was, and I, knew a little bit about the apartment. I knew a little bit about their routines, but they had no interest in hearing from me. Yeah, so now records are coming out. Is there any documentation of your conversation with police? Nope. There's no police report? Right. Apparently the last that I've heard of the 5,000-page document that lawyers have gone through, there's no report in there of my interview with police. And I know for a fact I was there at homicide headquarters talking to Detective Harris. But there's no document?
Did you see him write something down?
Yes. I saw him write something down, and I was there. So whether or not he was writing, what he did with that paper, it should have still been documented that I was there.
I mean, all these years later, are you surprised that it's still at a standstill?
Yeah. I mean, it's a complete injustice here. It's just baffling how every time there seems to be a win and everything's going in the right direction, somebody, political or very, financially savvy, is putting a stop to it, and it's defying common sense. My students at school, my kindergartners, could probably figure this out of what happened, and somebody's trying really, really hard to cover up what really went on that day, because if not, why wouldn't they let an investigation go on?
It's a great question. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, exclusive interview number 2. It's been a busy day for Brian Enton's team. They tracked down the security guard himself, the one who directly contradicted Ellen's fiance's story. He talks about that fateful day in 2011 and why the investigation seemed to go sideways. That's next. I do not have enough airtime to run down all the reasons that suicide is a very hard sell in the death of Ellen Greenberg. But here is one. Ellen's fiance, the man who found her body, told police that he had to break down the door to get to her, and was with building security, the actual guard, when he did so. The trouble is that security guard told police he was nowhere near that fiancé or that door when the door got kicked in. Our Brian Enton, of course, tracked down that security guard 13 years later after Ellen's death. And here's what he has to say about it today.
Did Sam ever ask you to go, or did you ever go with Sam up to the door when he was trying to get in?
No.
Do you know where that story came from?
It came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time, says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, hey, truth don't need no company, man. If that's what he said, that's what it is for him. My cameras and my guide say I was sitting at the front desk and advised him not to go upstairs. I know he lied. He know he lied. But why doesn't the assistant say, did anybody ever ask him, why did you lie on the guard? We have proof to say that he, I don't know if anybody talked to him that way. I don't know why they don't talk to him that way. I certainly would talk to him that way, because if I applied my street knowledge to it, I can get to him. Say, what the f*** you talking about, man? You know f***ing well I wouldn't. I can go to him like that. They're going to arrest me later. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. And Brian Enton joins me live now from Philadelphia. Two things are unbelievable: that you were able to track down all these people and get those incredible interviews, and what they actually said. Let's just start with that building management security guard. 13 years later, Brian, he seems crystal clear in his memory of what happened.
He is, and he's very emotional, Ashleigh. I mean, he almost really broke down at one point. He's disturbed by the whole thing, and he's upset that he wasn't believed. And he's just another person who has told us that they don't feel that this was properly investigated.
So, as I'm just gobsmacked by the interview, because at first I thought maybe the only inconsistency was the story that Sam Goldberg told the police, which was, I went back up to the front door of the apartment I shared with my fiance, and the building security guard accompanied me when I broke down the door. Clearly that was a lie, according to the guard. He said, I never was there. I told him not to do that. But also the fact that he said the guard told him to use his shoulder, and that he did it twice, according to Ellen's friend. He said, just not true. I didn't do that.
Yeah, and that was Ellen's friend Allison, who said that when she talked to Sam, Sam said that he used the shoulder to push the door in, and when we asked the guard about it, he almost like laughed. He's like, no, I would never say that. I never told him to push the door in. I never left the concierge desk in the lobby of the condo. And he says he told the police that. He says he told the police that early on.
I just can't understand how that wouldn't be something that factors into this suicide reclassification. It's confounding. So when you spoke with Ellen's best friend, I did notice something that stood out. She said that Sam said to her that when he went down to the gym, they hadn't been having an argument. There was nothing wrong. She was just a little stressed with work. But it seems to me that Ellen's best friend had some different feelings about the relationship between Ellen and Sam. What'd she say?
Yeah, Ashley. So they had been best friends since 5 years old. Grew up together, went on trips together. They were roommates. They were very, very close. They were both engaged at the same time to be married. She told me they had actually been wedding dress shopping the Saturday before Ellen died, and that she was emotional. She was crying at one point during the wedding dress shopping, that she was not herself. And at the time, she just thought, well, maybe she's having a rough time with work, didn't really think that much of it. But she says after everything that happened, she says she started to put two and two together. Listen to what she told me.
When she was with Sam, I just noticed this other side of her that was asking, permission for things. Just, we would want to make plans. She said, oh, let me ask Sam.
Was there ever any, looking back, anything that made you think maybe she was being abused?
My 40-something-year-old brain says yes. Looking back, the permission asking, absolutely. Now that seems like there was some kind of control going on there.
But guess what? Okay, Brian, I have this question about the whole thing smacks of why and how. Every other investigation in America, at least the bare minimum is done. Why not in this case? And I keep coming back to the connections that Sam Goldberg had. He had an uncle who was a lawyer and a judge. He had a cousin who was also a lawyer, allegedly had connections to Governor Josh Shapiro, who at the time was a DA. They are all, putting out their statements saying that they were legitimately involved and did nothing wrong. But why else would this be such a boondoggle?
Yeah, well, Josh Shapiro, by the way, the governor, who was the AG who investigated for 4.5 years, still won't respond to any of our emails. So we don't know what he thinks, and he hasn't talked to the family either, which they are very upset about. But it's interesting. I mean, there's different theories, the connections you talked about, but a lot of other people close to Ellen just feel this was really shoddy police work, that they were lazy. There was a big, massive snowstorm going on when she was found, which they think may have played something into this. Like, I think it was like feet and feet of snow where they're not able to get the proper resources out there. It could have just been shoddy police work, but why now 13 years have gone by? I mean, remember, the parents have spent $700,000 fighting legally to get this reinvestigated. Not to make money, but just to get them to open it back up. Why will no one take a closer look? We still really just don't know.
Well, we're not leaving it. We're not leaving it. Why won't they take a closer look? Maybe they will when the media starts really calling to task all the disasters that happened in this case and all the big names that are connected to it. You and your team out there have just done stellar work, Brian. Thank you so much, and stay on the story.
Thanks, Ash.
All right, still to come, the moment that family and friends and fans of Johnny Wacker have been waiting for. Almost 3 months after the General Hospital actor was gunned down in cold blood by 3 guys stealing his catalytic converter on his car. Suspects are in custody tonight, plural. Johnny's mom joins me next, and I'll ask her what police have told her about the 4 young men now behind bars.
You look like someone who has a lot of subscriptions.
I have a lot.
Too many, I'd say. You can see your subscriptions all in one place and cancel the ones you don't like. Dude, that's so easy.
I actually need that.
Get started now with the Experian app.
We've got breaking news for you tonight in the murder of General Hospital star Johnny Wacker. After a long day of search warrants and detentions and arrests, 4 suspects are finally in custody. And now we know their names tonight. Police have arrested Robert Barcelo, Leonel Gutierrez, and Sergio Estrada. All 3 of them just 18 years old, and all 3 of them charged with murder. Frank Olano, the 4th, is 22, and he's been booked as an accessory to murder. Wacker was killed by 3 men who were trying to steal the catalytic converter off his car May 25th. Weeks later, police released images of the suspects getting away in a stolen black Infiniti. They were ID'd reportedly from fingerprints that were left at the scene. I'm joined now by Johnny Wacker's mother, Scarlett Wacker. Scarlett, thank you so much for being on the program. I can't imagine how hard this day has been, but at the same time, that it must be some sense of relief that at least there is this huge break in the case. How did you find out about these arrests?
Well, the media kind of started blowing my phone up before the LAPD could call me, but they were doing their due diligence to get them booked before they would let me know anything. I reached out to them when the media called me, and they said, we'll get right back to you. And a little bit later they did, and confirmed that they had arrested 4. And Monday would be the official booking of everything, and they would hand that over, and I would know a lot more then. But of course, since then, you see the names and the birth dates and stuff.
Yeah, and that was the big question I had for you. I mean, obviously, I'm sorry that it's the media that ends up, breaking the news to you before the police do. It should not be that sequence of events. But did they tell you anything else that hasn't made, the press releases and the news conference?
No, and they won't, of course, this whole time. And I know they have good reason. It is frustrating, but I understand it. They have been very tight-lipped, and even now they're holding their cards close. They're building everything as strongest case that they can, of course. And Monday we'll present all that to the DA, and then I will know exactly all the charges. There may be even more than that, the murder. I want them away for a very long time, and I like life without parole, so I prefer to see them charged federally. If they only get so many years and are out on parole, they'll get out before younger than Johnny was killed. And so I just don't see that as good enough, unfortunately.
Martin Luther King once said the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, and it can take a long time. This has been several months, and I know I think on Tuesday you were urging the mayor and the DA to do more, and here we are Thursday with the arrests. These boys are 18. 3 of them that are charged with murder are 18, and if they are convicted and they get life no parole, that could mean upwards of 70 years, behind bars. Does that bring any relief? Does it feel like a sense of justice if that were to happen?
Yes. But I've been told that they could get life, but they would be eligible for parole, and I don't want them to be. They're, I think, part of a gang, and I don't think that there's any sense of turning around. I think some of them have priors, so obviously there's just no consequence. They need to serve the consequences, and the others out there need to be told when they do this, there will be consequences, and strong, severe consequences. I mean, look at what happened to my son. I will never see him again here on earth.
That's a life sentence for you. I just wanted to make note, Scarlett, that August 31st, we'll be thinking about you. That's Johnny's 38th birthday, would have been. It's just 16 days from now. Our hearts go out to you. Thank you so much for talking with us. And I'd like to just stay in touch and keep this relationship as we watch what happens in this prosecution. And God, our best goes to you. And I pray for peace for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Scarlett Wacker, Johnny Wacker's mom, joining us tonight. We will speak with her again as we continue following the case. Coming up after the break, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Piece of Hollywood movie history going up for sale. Not cheap, and there is a small chance it might be haunted. If you know your early 80s horror movies, this house might look familiar. In a minute, I'm going to tell you the price, and I'm also going to tell you the provenance. But there's something else to it. And it's this. They're here. We're back right after this. Famous house for sale, but it's got some baggage you might want to consider before taking a closer look. It's in Simi Valley, northwest of Los Angeles, 2,300 square feet, 4 bedrooms, giant and beautiful style-and backyard pool. And oh yeah, this is the house that scared the holy bejesus out of all of us back in 1982. It's the house where Steven Spielberg shot the movie Poltergeist, about some nasty ghosts that made life hell for the mortals who didn't know they were living on a burial ground. The listing promises that the house is not really haunted. And you may remember that scene where the scary psychic lady declares, "This house is clean." So the asking price is a little under $1.2 million. And that pool, by the way, that was under construction while the movie was being shot, that's all completed now. You might also know about the curious curse, some people say, about the Poltergeist franchise. After several cast members from both the original film and the sequel died young, the actress who was trapped in the TV, she died at 12. Her movie sister was killed by her boyfriend. It was Dominic Dunn's actual daughter, and several others died as well. But the house, apparently, it's okay. Cuomo's next.
We will stop inflation. We will make America affordable again, and we're going to bring back the American dream. We have tremendous potential in this country. We can do amazing things, and we can do them fast.
I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for joining me here at NewsNation. And that, of course, was Donald Trump a few hours ago, giving a press conference from his golf club at Bedminster, New Jersey.